So, lads, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Nalyssa Smith. And this is a player that honestly is like very much divides opinion amongst fans in general, amongst Fever fans. And we're going to be talking about whether or not, after her just incredible performances in China, whether the Fever should keep a hold on Nalyssa Smith. Like, you're seeing more and more of the Fever talking about Nalyssa Smith, posting about Nalyssa Smith on social media. And we got to talk about whether or not the Fever should go and actually keep her. And if you guys agree or disagree, subscribe, where we talk about WNBA type topics. I'll say type topics after some of the stuff we posted in the offseason. Either way, though, season not too far away, and it's only unrivaled, then it's March Madness, then it's the season. But obviously, the Fever are coring Kelsey Mitchell. Every little thing has got Kelsey Mitchell in the promo. Kelsey Mitchell is there, like, there's no pictures of her with anyone else. It's her with her Fever teammate. I think at the same time, like, she wants to test free agency. I think it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, I want to see what's out there. I doubt she goes anywhere other than the Fever, at least short term. I think there's a good chance she might leave Fever in 2026. But like, in 2025, I think it's almost certain that she will play one more year in Indiana. Then I don't think she can be court again. Either way, though, we got to talk about Nalyssa Smith right here and what her role is going to have to be in a Stephanie White system, what her role is in China. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, she's balling it in China, maybe give her another chance. And the problem with Nalyssa Smith in China is she's been really good. She is a post-up big. She's a pretty good one. She is. Like, when she was at Baylor, there were a lot of people that thought, Nalyssa Smith, let's take her over Ryan Howard. Look, Ryan Howard, unpopular opinion, is like Juju Watkins with a bit less flair. Ryan Howard's a good defender, 6'2" guard, who's a better shooter than Juju, who a bit dumb shot selection, a bit inefficient, but like good defender, gets steals, gets blocks, big wing, kind of a prototype for the modern WNBA. And a lot of people were saying take Nalyssa Smith over. She was that good in Baylor. And the reality situation is that she was good in her first rookie year. She averaged nearly 15 and 10 in her second year. And then last year was averaging like 10 and 7. And in China, she's hooping. As the number one option on her team, she is hooping. And I've watched a couple of games, and all it has proven is exactly what everyone has said about Nalyssa Smith. If she is the number one player on your team, she will look pretty good. Which is why I thought the Valkyries should have done whatever they could to get Nalyssa Smith. Because I think Nalyssa Smith could be a number one option on a bad team and give you 18 a game and be an all-star. I think if you put her on what the modern version of the Valkyries are, I think she's an all-star. I think there's some weird 3-team trade where you can get Satu by somebody else going to Dallas and rooting Nalyssa Smith to Golden State. But I think the Valkyries should do whatever they can to trade her. I would even be half tempted. Look, unpopular opinion, I don't know how much better. Let's just say they want a power forward at 5. I don't know how much better for the Valkyries specifically Anissa Morrow would be Nalyssa Smith. The problem with Nalyssa Smith is she doesn't play with that high a motor. That is a fact. She does not play with the highest motor in the world. She still does not play defense. She doesn't shoot. They're the 3 problems with Nalyssa Smith. And if you want to play, like, let's just say the guarantees are Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. They're your big 3. To play with that big 3, you need to have at least 2 of those 3. You have to at least be an elite defender, an elite motor, and be a good shooter to play with them. Like, that's why I think Damaris Danta struggles so much, because she is an elite shooter. She is one of the 3. Temi Fagbenle was 2 of the 3. She had an elite motor and she played defense. So that's why they were so good with Temi Fagbenle there. I think when you go 3 of the 3, it's tough because a player that exists in that mold that I think could survive the power forward is Leonie Fibic, and you're not going to get Leonie Fibic. I don't think a player like that exists to be a 4th option. Yes, Stewie exists, Fee exists, Alana Smith maybe exists, but like, she's more so like a stretch big to play beside Aaliyah Boston. So it's really tough to find that type of power forward. And I don't think Satu's that. I don't think Satu's a good enough defender, but Satu is good enough on offense. He's a good enough shooter, and they're going to get enough shots. There's going to outgun teams with Satu. But I still think Nalyssa Smith, for her own sake, probably should want out of Indiana. I think she wants to stay, but I think just for her own sake, for her own headspace, for her own like game, she can play her game. She'll never be able to play her game in Indiana because it's just not what's needed. It's genuinely just not what's needed. And I don't understand why in WNBA circles it's not okay to say this. Sometimes players can be good and just not be a good fit. Like, I was trying to think, like Russ. Russ has not been terrible since 2022. He was a terrible fit with LeBron. I was trying to think of players that were just good but bad fits together. Nash and Kobe were a terrible fit together. Both Nash and Kobe, great players. Dwight and Kobe weren't even a good fit together, ironically enough. Dwight and James Harden were a terrible fit together. Great players. So, yeah, for me anyway, especially, sorry about moving, my back's killing me. But when we're talking about Nalyssa Smith here, we've got to be objective with all of this. We've got to talk about it in a basketball way. And I think it's just a play style issue. Like, Nalyssa Smith is playing really well in China. If anything, that might bump up her trade value because we've seen that Nalyssa Smith is not really going to fit into a role. Like, the problem is that I've seen her brother like being like, oh, with Stephanie White, she's going to be the most improved player. But it's like, why? She's going to touch the ball less. For the Fever to win, realistically, the ball has to be in her hands less. Like, she's not going to get any post-ups. Like, she needs to be a spacer or a cutter, and she's neither. Like, when she goes on that wing, and the problem is she can't be a cutter because Kelsey Mitchell is a cutter. You've got to be a spacer. And if you're not going to be a spacer, you got to be just an elite motor player who makes up for it on defense and will run the floor and will get easy buckets in transition like Temi Fagbenle. Which is why I would like Anisha Morrow to be playing for this team. Even though, in fairness, she's as bad a shooter as Nalyssa. And Nalyssa can't even shoot free throws. And as well as that, let's not forget, she's the single worst big defender in the league. And it's fine, you know. If you surrounded her with really good defensive players, Nalyssa Smith's fine. Like, if you put her on a team with good defenders kind of built around her, you know what? She can be good. Not in the defensive end, but she can be a good player. Problem is, Kelsey Mitchell is an average at best defender. Caitlin Clark, I will say, is a slightly below average defender. Lexi Hull's a decent defender. Aaliyah Boston's a decent defender. And then whoever the fifth player is can't be the single worst defensive big in the league. Because you've got a team where your two best defenders, I'll say it, are decent defenders. And your other two are players that could be a good team defenders, but aren't great individual defenders. Like, Nalyssa Smith would literally have to be two of a lockdown player, super high motor, or shooter coming into the next season for her to be any use to this team. And she's not going to be any of them. It's not her game. It's fine. But I do hope to see Nalyssa Smith somewhere where she can actually get her posts ups, where she can be hidden a little bit on defense, because in space she's a good rebounder. She's just not good at boxing out. She's not good at guarding fours, where she can be hidden a little bit and get her post ups. Maybe it could be a starter coming off the bench. I think there is, like, Nalyssa Smith could have a long career. I think the longer she stays at Indiana, the shorter that career is, because the longer she stays at Indiana, the more her flaws get shown and her good points don't get shown. But anyway, I'll see you guys.